Fun. We're live over there on YouTube, live on TikTok. Irvin says, damn, Georgia messed up my parlay. For those of you guys, we should be live on Instagram. For those of you guys, I posted my picks on Instagram and YouTube. We were 11-4 against the spread yesterday. That's getting it done. We're 40-30 on the season. 2024, we were 128-84, I think it was. Those numbers I'm rattling off, those who know that that is getting it done. But appreciate everyone being here. What's going on this morning? I flew in from where the heck was I last night? Boston College. I called Boston College versus Cal, and one of the best games I've called. It was awesome to be, ACC Network on ESPN had a thriller, great game, like a legit good football game. Both teams going back and forth. Both JKS Jaren Kiave Sagapolatele and Dylan Lonergan, good quarterbacks. Lonergan gets no hype in the ACC, but he's a stud. JKS, if you don't know about JKS, get on board. That dude is special. I was just saying this off air on TikTok before I went live. But the three most impressive, I'll give Keaton Slovis some love. The most impressive true freshman quarterbacks that I've seen, like up close and personal. Keaton Slovis, year one at USC, which is funny, and I guess a reminder that, hey, it doesn't always translate, even though I think he was good. He just got him in some tough scenarios. Jackson Dart, Caleb Williams, and then now JKS. And I'm quickly realizing that people are not appreciating how accurate he is, and he makes difficult throws look easy, especially for a young guy. Like a lot of those fade balls, it's easy to be like, oh, he's just throwing it up. Nah, he's being accurate. But I'll get into that in my first segment. I got 5 segments today, 3 of which, as you guys have requested, we got some iPad breakdowns. I got a little telestration tool, so I'll be talking Ty Simpson. I'll be talking Garrett Nussmeier and what the hell is going on with LSU, and I'll be talking Drew Aller. I haven't really talked a bunch of Penn State on these shows so far this year, and I feel like I'm not alone in that. At least maybe as like a West Coast guy who's like Penn State really hadn't really played anyone before that. So that was, I feel like, everyone's intro to who Penn State was, and maybe Oregon too. The Ducks were flying around. And then I'll get into there's probably last segment, there's 4, 8, 13. There's what 17 undefeated teams left in Power Four football. I'll rank them, or I'll tier them, I should say, in terms of who do I think is a legitimate CFP contender. One step above that, who do I think can actually run the table and finish the deal undefeated? Who needs to be careful? Is this as good as it gets? And then who could ultimately finish below 500, which would be crazy if you're one of the 16 remaining teams that are undefeated to ultimately finish the season under 500. But crazier things have happened. How's the chat doing? How we living? YouTube, how we living over there? If anyone's on Instagram too, I believe I hooked it up. Let me know. Let me know how that connection's going. Thoughts on Oregon's win? I'll get to that, Tyler. Appreciate that. GKH, what's going on? YouTube, how's the chat going over there? 1 second. Boom. AZ, can you talk about ASU? Yes, I will. It's in my first segment. So without further ado, I'll kick that off. So, college football is far from perfect in 2025, but it never was. We all know that. But I find that we're romanticizing every era. We romanticize the BCS era, but we forget that an algorithm was picking the 2 best teams in the country that ultimately competed for the national title. I'm old enough to remember, those of you guys on TikTok might not necessarily be, but I'm old enough to remember that year, Texas, USC, Auburn, how much chaos that was. People couldn't even fathom that system. We romanticize the poll era, but then we forget that half the people, the majority of people voting in the poll era, weren't even watching half the games, maybe 2/3 of the games. They were only watching games confined to their geographic area, which is obviously why we got out of that. And it's why the AP poll continues to just catch strays from everyone on both sides of the aisle. We romanticize the pre-NIL era, but then we forget that Johnny Manziel made $300 million for Texas A&M, was the most popular player in college football, maybe in football in general that year, and then got suspended for taking 10 grand. And we kind of all realized, yeah, it's kind of fucked up. Yeah, we probably shouldn't do that. But we romanticize all those eras. We even romanticize the birth of the game in general at the turn of the century when men were men. But then we forget that the game, people were actually dying on the field. And Congress almost threatened to shut down the sport in totality. I say that because it's always easy to shit on the era of where we're at right now, but you look back, it's been consistent throughout college football. And that romance is part of why I love this sport. It distracts us from it distracts us from the fact that this sport has never been better than it is today. I firmly believe that. I really do, and I'm with these coaches every single week on Friday meetings. It feels like I wouldn't have said that last year. Last year, when I'm talking to these coaches, there was still an undertone of complaining about the transfer portal era. It feels like this has really been the year where people have begun to accept it, and then we're also seeing it on the field for three very distinct reasons for why this era and it hasn't been why this era is the best and why I don't think college football has been in a better spot. One, parity. Anyone can beat anyone. This past weekend was a great example, which we'll get into that. It's much harder for those top five programs when I was playing, late 2010s, mid 2010s, where top five programs would just stockpile talent. You'd have a number one, number two, number three recruiting class. Guys wouldn't transfer because they couldn't afford to sit out. But then now you're seeing programs say, all right, back up at Georgia, back up at Alabama, come go be a starter at Ole Miss, come be a starter at Missouri, come be a starter at Arkansas. And it's made the level of competition much more flat in a good way. The result has been more competitive games everywhere across the board. 10 of the 13 matchups we circled heading into this week were one possession games in the fourth quarter, including every ranked on ranked matchup. Let me say that again, especially for the NFL fans, because that's usually the biggest criticism for college football. 10 out of the 13 matchups we had circled going into this week were one possession games in the fourth quarter, and including every single ranked on ranked matchup. Biggest criticism for college football is the blowouts. That right there is a really good sign. There were 3 OT games this weekend involving undefeated teams. Those three were Oregon versus Penn State. Ducks won 30-24. That was a phenomenal football game. The Ducks are flying around. Penn State feels just like that coat of anxiety that they've had from the past couple of years of James Franklin in this narrative, or as James Franklin says, it's not a narrative, it's the reality that they can't beat ranked teams, or at least quality ranked teams. Oregon went in there. That defense is legit. That front seven, so much was made about the Penn State offensive line. To have that game at home, and I thought the Oregon defensive line got after the Penn State offensive line. That really stood out to me. Penn State receivers only had 6 receptions the entire game. I'm going to break down that in the next segment of what's going on. What do I think about Drew Aller? Why those receivers are only getting 6 receptions? But that, for so much made about the offensive line, so much made about the receivers in the transfer portal, so much made about the home field advantage, that did not show out for Penn State. Tennessee 41, Mississippi State 34. I haven't had a chance to watch that game, but Mississippi State, man, that was a team that we were all writing off, or like literally it's like, all right, it's a win for everyone in the SEC. When wins are already hard enough to come by in the SEC. Mississippi State, not going to be an easy out. I got to watch that one, but moral of the story, close game on that one. And then Georgia Tech, Wake Forest. I thought Wake Forest was going to open it. I literally had I thought they were going to finish the deal. I was literally going live on air doing our open for Boston College Cal. I had my iPad like right next to me, because part of our open was me reacting in real time to all the craziness in college football. And I thought Wake Forest was going to finish the deal, man. What happened if their quarterback, the Oregon South Carolina transfer, blanking on his name, Lenore Sellers' backup last year, blanking on his name right this second. If he didn't get hurt, Wake Forest probably comes down with that game. Let me just make 1 second. Boom, 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 boom. Honestly, the resemblance to Joe Burrow is too good. Yeah, I get that all the time. Get it all on TikTok as well. But Wake Forest, that is a extremely tough job. I've been on record saying Jake Dickert, man, like I get why I had to leave Washington State. Wake Forest might be the hardest job in Power Four football right now. I don't think that's an exaggeration. And they're going toe to toe with Georgia Tech, who a lot of people think that they're ultimately going to win the ACC. Friday night, we saw Florida State and Virginia. Not going to be that guy that said I saw that coming, because I didn't see it coming. But what I did see coming to start the year, or like, because I had Virginia week 1 in person, I was like, this offense is much different. I was like, Virginia is going to sneak up on somebody this year and get a win that they're not supposed to get to. I didn't, put my nuts on the line and say, hey, that was going to be Florida State. But I did. I had a buddy call me and was like, yo, what do you think about this line? And I was like, he's like, 7 points doesn't feel like enough against, I mean, this is Florida State. Like, Florida State's legit. I was like, stay away from that line. Virginia at home, maybe the biggest game in the Tony Elliott era, at home in Charlottesville. That place was rocking. Good for Tony Elliott too. He's a great dude, great coach. He's been great to us, like from a media standpoint. And to get that win in year 4, like that very much could turn the tide for Virginia. Everyone's looking at that through a Florida State lens. That could be the win that gets Virginia out of this lower bottom tier of the ACC and gets them contending on a day in which Sam Pittman gets fired because Arkansas hung with him in what, year 6? Virginia hangs with Tony Elliott in year 4. That might pay dividends for the Hoos, which I just learned that this year. The Hoos. TCU and Arizona State. If I thought that Wake Forest was going to beat Georgia Tech, man, I thought TCU had this one in the bag easy. Arizona State at home in the desert. They were up, they were down 14-0. TCU offense was rolling. Those of you guys that watched the content last week, especially on YouTube, I said Josh Hoover's the best quarterback in Texas outside of Dak and CJ and the NFL guys, but at the college ranks, I still believe that. I think he's a baller. That showed early on, but ASU just kept chipping away. And this is a guy that I have not seen a lot. I saw him in the CFP, but what game was that? Either way, I need to watch Jordan Tyson more. My best bud, whose football opinion I trust a bunch, was like, "Yo, Jordan Tyson's next up." He made the comp that he runs like he's got some CD Lamb to him, which I feel like I like that comp. But anyways, it was the Jordan Tyson and Sam Levitt show, ultimately for Arizona State to get over the hump versus TCU. Parity, competitive games. And then Indiana versus Iowa. I thought Iowa was gonna upset Indiana. They didn't get it done. That was a recipe for an upset for Iowa. At home, 2:30 kick. Indiana off a letdown. Physicality of Iowa's defense versus Indiana, who they were able to be more physical than Illinois the week before. I thought that was an upset spot. I was close, but I didn't get there. Moral of the story, though, parity across college football in ways we have not seen since I can remember. Second reason college football is better today than it has been before. We have more access. Think about what we've had the past week. We've had the Lane Kiffin ESPN documentary. He goes and backs that up, beats LSU 24-19. I'll get into LSU and what's happening with that offense. If you're over there on TikTok, head over to YouTube. I got full Garrett Nussmeier breakdown coming here in probably 15 minutes. Kiffin's also embracing this whole his daughter Landry dating the LSU linebacker, having fun with it on Twitter. I saw the clip of Whit Weeks throwing up. So Kiffin's daughter's boyfriend, maybe Kiffin's son-in-law one of these days. But he's throwing up, and then Kiff retweets it and was like, tempo. Love that. Love that. And it's still wild to me. I'm going to say this for years and years and years to come, and I probably need to dial up a short form video on this for TikTok. But I played for Lane Kiffin, and the main criticism was that he was not dynamic enough to run a locker room. Was he capable enough of managing the USC boosters and donors? That dude is literally the most dynamic coach in college football right now, period. That is crazy. Good on you, Kiff, making things happen. I also find out this week, in terms of access, that New Mexico and New Mexico State, their trophy is a functional Hatch chili roaster. They're giving us the behind the scenes look. Thought that was kind of cool. There's just more stories. Social media has given us more access. I think Lane Kiffin has shown for all these fan bases that want to the biggest thing for every program is how can you activate your donor base to spend that money and get them to contribute money so you can spend it in the portal. That is the number one factor for all these teams. When you give access, it gives fans belief in what that program can be. That's what Kip's done at Ole Miss. And for all these jobs that are opening up, if you're the AD at UCLA, if you're the AD at Arkansas, if you're the AD at Virginia Tech, that's what you have to decide when you're making your next head coach hire. Who's going to come in here and excite our donors so they give us money, so they donate to the collective, so we can make moves in the portal and be competitive? X's and O's is obviously still important. Your ability to recruit and hold conversations and in-home visits, obviously still important. How you talk to players, obviously still important. The number one factor for all these teams is talent acquisition and retention. You do that by money. You do that by getting donor support. The best way to get donor support is feel like they're part of this thing. Let them know the real you. Activate your donor base. Kevin's done that in a great, in a elite way, and I think it's the blueprint for a lot of these teams that are having to find a new head coach. And then the final reason, and I'll rip through this, that college football is better than it ever's been, is there's more teams that have legitimate belief at this point in the season. There's more belief all the way through the season. 2 or 3 losses doesn't kill you. And I've noticed it on Twitter. It's taken, like, fans know that. Like, they know they're not out. But I even notice it with my USC fan base. It's like, you're so wired to think the world is literally ending after 1 loss. And I'm not saying USC fans shouldn't be pissed for an Illinois loss, but it's like, you're still in it. And that was a game preseason that USC was supposed to lose. If you take the brands out, and just look at the projections across the totality of college football, Illinois was supposed to be favored against USC in that game. USC should have won, not making excuses, but they're not out of it. And fan bases like USC. I literally was in the rental car shuttle bus this morning at 4:45 a.m. in Boston, Massachusetts, and there was a dude across from me wearing Florida State shorts. And I looked at him and I was like, dude, I respect you rocking the shorts. Any fan that's rocking the team apparel after they get upset, that's how you know they're a real one. And so I told him, I was like, dude, you're an OG, you're a real one. And his comment to me was, we're not out of it yet. And I was like, hell yeah, there we go. That is why college football right now is in the best spot it's been. With all the complaints, all the issues, I get that. I just think you look back on this past week, and there's a reason I'm saying it right now on this Sunday show, because all the games that we were thinking about on Thursday, they all delivered. They all delivered. TikTok, how we living? Eastlake's gonna is gonna cook Skyline this year. Yeah, right. We stole your offensive coordinator, baby. Johan, what's going on? AJ, what's up, man? Good to see you again. Goat69, what a username. Thoughts on BYU? I will get to that in my last segment. I'm hesitant on BYU. I thought Colorado was, those of you guys that saw my picks on Instagram, Colorado, that was an easy cover. That was at home, Folsom Field, playing a true freshman quarterback with not a vast passing attack. Yeah, BYU will be, they need to unlock more passing attack wise before I'm a believer in them as a Big 12 title contender. The Who's are gross. Max, you have him over Sawyer Robinson, the Baylor quarterback? I do, Anthony. Anthony's asking about my best quarterback in Texas, Sawyer Robinson. It's between, well, yeah, Sawyer Robinson, Baron Morton, and Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover, to me, he's a little bit more mobile than Sawyer Robertson, and he just rips through his progressions. He's got a super strong arm. He's legit, dude. Both quarterbacks are great, but I would take Hoover if I was rolling out a game tomorrow. Let's hop into a little Penn State chatter. Nittany Lions, let's rip the Band-Aid off. We got to look at this in plain view before we're going to fix the team struggles, but offensive struggles as well. The final score on that one, Oregon 30, Penn State 24. They sealed the deal off a Drew Aller interception. Oregon outgained Penn State 591 yards to 419 total yards, 340 for the Ducks in the passing game compared to just 137 in the passing game for Drew Aller and Penn State. Didn't feel like the Penn State defense showed up with their absolute game changers that we were promised. If anything, I felt like the Oregon defensive line flashed more, which I made this tweet this morning. But Bear Alexander, the troubled transfer from Georgia by way of USC, now went to Penn State, right? And then back at Oregon, he flashed. Where number one as a defensive tackle, he got after the interior of the Penn State offensive line, which was supposed to be a good group. Penn State's still good. That's CFP team on CFP team, but that flashed for me. Penn State's defensive line didn't sack Dante Moore. In 33 minutes of time of possession, they did only give up 2 touchdowns, so that was good. Penn State defense very much battled in there, and that was an Oregon team that going into that game, they were averaging 51 points per game. So that's pretty solid. Only 2 touchdowns in that game in regulation. So if the defense isn't necessarily the issue, then our eyes and our heads have to turn to the offensive side of the football. Drew Aller last night, 14 for 25, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, the costly 1 pick, 3 sacks as well, which I'll get into the pressure there. And then again, the stat that really stuck out to me, so much was made about their transfer portals. They went and got Kyron Hudson from USC, who I love. They went and got Trevor Pena, which I had him in person a couple times last year at Syracuse, little slot machine. Those option routes weren't working against Oregon. Credit that secondary. Devontae Ross did have 4 catches, though. Didn't even get Kyron 1 catch in that game. Drew did have 16 carries. No, the offense had 16 carries for 34 yards. Drew Aller against top 6 teams as a starter, 0-6, 50% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. The narrative that they asked James Franklin in the postgame presser, it does come through on the Drew Aller stats. And it's cool, and I'll credit this. So YouTube, I'm about to share my screen. TikTok, go check out YouTube. Just type in Max Brown. I'm about to share my screen. There's some cool charts that I stumbled across. My team was helping me with them. I'll give credit in the description. My bad for not having that top of mind. But check this out. So over there on YouTube, you'll see this. So this is a spider chart, as they call it. And you're going to see on the left-hand side. So I'm backing up. When Sean Clifford, accomplished Penn State quarterback, the narrative a few years ago was very much excitement about the future of Drew Aller. Hey, we finally have like an NFL guy. And I know Clifford, was in the NFL a little bit, but in terms of like a big-time NFL prospect, the thought was that Drew Aller would unlock this passing game and that there would be whole new levels to it. And this spider chart very much shows that. You can see, the larger the area is, the larger the Navy area is, the more production you're getting out of the quarterback. For example, some of these categories, EPA, that's a nuance. Like my PFF football stat junkies will love that one, but just think about it like success level. So you're talking about turnovers, you're talking about sack rate, you're talking about pass yardage, you're talking about late down success rate. This is a noteworthy metric. Early down success rate, explosive plays. The point I'm trying to drive home visually, though, is that year one or those early years with Drew Aller very much accomplished what Penn State fans were hoping. More explosion under Drew Aller. But then when you look at it from 2024 to 2025, again, TikTok, check out Max Brown on YouTube for these chats. 2024 on the left here, very productive. That's the chart we just saw. Very productive, explosive from an early down standpoint, explosive just from an explosive play standpoint. That to me taps into the whole Andy Kotelnicki chatter about being creative and unlocking explosives. Look at the chart on the right. This is this season. The percentiles from Drew Aller in the 2025 season. Late down success rate, terrible. You're talking about early down success rate, not as good, and then explosives, terrible. These two whatever you call them, branches on the spider, webs on the spider, are glaring differences from the success that everyone was hyping up Penn State's offense on last year compared to this year. You're looking at late down success rate, terrible, explosive play success rate, terrible. And then for more context, or actually, let me give you some stats to back that up. They're converting their third down percentage just 37.5% of the time. That's 79th in the country. And they've played some bad teams. We all know that. They haven't played necessarily. Actually, I got to refresh my mind on who they've played, so I don't want to say that. But, it hasn't been world beaters necessarily. And then against Oregon, they were 6 for 15 on third down there. To add insult to injury, here's the third chart. Check this out. Your old familiar face, Bo Prabula. This is his chart. That looks a lot like what Drew Aller did last year. Bo Prabula, pretty strong across the board. In terms, and really the only category he's not good in is the only category he's not good in is sacks and then early down success rate, which usually if you don't have early down success rate, you're not going to have late down success rate. Maybe that contribute or that the reason that's the case is because of Bo Prabula's legs, which is an added element to Drew Aller. But the reason I bring this up is for you Penn State fans, this is the guy you let walk. This is the guy you have in your under center right now. I'm not saying you should have kept Bo Prabula. I think you should have kept Drew Aller, of course. But I'm saying there's a stark difference between the man on the left, has Missouri rolling, undefeated, doing a lot of good things, a lot of excitement. Drew Aller, preseason #1 quarterback in next year's NFL draft by some, hasn't necessarily lived up to that billing, in my opinion. Didn't play bad though, which I'll get into, but it hasn't popped like I think we all would have hoped. And with that, let me share my screen. Let me little film breakdown. Drew Aller, as requested. You guys wanted.
Runs up the field, gets like a 6-yard gain. Initially, you're like, oh, that's a good play by Drew Aller. That's a good play. I disagree. And I think he pre-plays it in his mind. One sec, sorry.
Yo, chat, you guys got me? Yeah. You guys got my audio now? Let me know, chat, and then I'll get rocking and rolling. Mr. Dot, you got my audio? Now this will be the test. This will be the test. How's this? Moment of truth. Edgar, how's my audio now with the screen sharing? Good. All right, clutch. This right here is a byproduct of a quarterback getting hit a bunch. He's got open receivers. He's got a tight end working the corner here. What's the route on the tight end's open? Moral of the story, tight end's open. But instead, like right there, I want Drew Aller throwing this ball here against inside leverage safety. He also has a check down potentially here. I forget what route this receiver is working up top here. Oh, this receiver's on a vertical route to the top. Even taking a shot downfield, I don't necessarily like that. You trust your guy in a vertical route. I don't mind that. But instead, what we see is he tucks the ball down and starts running. He gets 6 yards. All right, you pick it up. But when we go to this back view, that's a clean pocket. That's a clean pocket. You're an NFL quarterback. Give me 1, 2, 3. Hit that tight end. He's open. Let me go back one time just to show you guys. Watch this tight end in the bottom of the screen. That's open. That's open. Maybe they missed Tyler Warren too. That's a different conversation. But you get the point. Get hit all game. This was 2nd and 7, I believe it was. But he picks it up. All right, next play. They fake the run. Gets out, gets sacked. Biggest thing that jumps out to me is, Penn State made the argument they had the best running back room in the country. Louisville might have something to say about that. Notre Dame might have something to say about that. But there's no stress with the run game. If you're thinking that you have one of the best running backs in the country, which they do, he's an absolute stud. But the flow from from the Ducks should be heavy this way. That doesn't happen one bit. And as a result, again, you're seeing Drew Aller get hit. So that's twice. Critical drive in this game, 3rd quarter, 3-3 ball game. All right, offensive coordinator's like, all right, well, let's get a different way to get a playmaker of the ball in space. They pitch it out. Excellent tackle in open field by Oregon. You've been hit twice. Critical 3rd down. You're on the plus side of the territory. This is a critical down in this game. This is 3rd and 8. If you pick up yards on this play, you're probably going for it. In fact, you got to get it here. Here's the marker, 3rd and 8. Even if you get it here, you're probably going for it because you're in no man's land. Drew Aller's been hit twice in this drive, been hit all in the 1st quarter. This is a poor read by him. He's got to pitch this ball. It's one thing if you're Beau Pribula and you're a dual threat. He's got to pitch this football. Defensive end's hanging right there. I don't know why he didn't pitch that football. It's a mental mistake. That's a byproduct of getting hit, not making a clean decision. Look at the back view here. I'm looking at this defensive end. He crashes down, or if he just stays put, again, you got one of the best running backs in the country right there. If it's Gray at all, you got to get him the rock. Defensive end crashes down, stays a little bit. To me, that's a pitch. Get the ball on the outside and make it happen. Because if he does, check that. He's got blockers. I think he picks up the 1st down. You got 2 for here, 2 for here. Just make one guy miss. Regardless, I think you're going for it on 4th down. Reason I wanted to show that, though, impact of Oregon's defensive line, I think, made Drew Aller unsettled at certain points in the game, didn't allow the offense to get in rhythm. very, very few completions to the receiver unit. And it's because of a lot of this theme that you're seeing right there. If Drew Aller was some people's top quarterback to start the year, my quarterback and other people's top quarterback to start the year was Mr. Garrett Nussmeier. Where are people at with that? Are people still Garrett Nussmeier hype train, or have they just seen the total points and cooled off? Because Garrett Nussmeier is a baller. LSU's run game is just shit, which I'll get into. One sec. Yeah, like I just said, Garrett Nussmeier was my Heisman pick heading into this year. And no one wants to say everything is fine, nothing to see here more than me, because I feel like I was early on the Nuss train, especially because he doesn't have he's not, Lenora Sellers just looks sick coming off the bus. John Mateer just looks sick when he's shown on the game film. Garrett Nussmeier, you have to have the appreciation for little nuances. You have the appreciation for getting to your check down. But anyways, the fact that LSU was outgained 269 to 506 by Ole Miss this week. They lost. Sorry. But the fact is LSU outgained Ole Miss. Sorry. Ole Miss outgained LSU 269 to 506. They lost 19 to 24 in that ball game. And the most important stat is the Tigers' run game only managed to get 59 yards. Nussmeier was only 21 for. We're back. Sorry. Mic issues. Tech issues here. You guys got me now? Sound dropping. AJ1218 gets the comment of the day. Sound dropping the sound dropping for YouTube, like Tennessee dropping punts. AJ, is it back now? Oh, that's cool. Yo, is it back now? All right, clutch. All right, let me start over. So yeah, Garrett Nussmeier was my Heisman pick heading into the year. No one wanted to say everything is fine. Nothing to see here more than me. But the fact is, LSU was outgained by Ole Miss 269 to 506 just this past week. All the stats I just ran through. Garrett Nussmeier, 21 for 34, 197 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not clean. Not clean at all. And check this out. I'm going to go. Those same graphics that I had for Drew Aller, I got for Garrett Nussmeier.
This is him in 2024. You can tell larger the purple area, the better success rate he's having across different areas in this game. Or different areas in quarterback play. You're talking turnovers, sack rate, pass just efficiency, late down success rate, early down success rate, explosive plays. The explosive plays one is one that immediately jumps out. Great in 2024. You look at 2025, not so much the case. Not at all, in fact. And part of me thinks its defense is getting used to just, what this LSU offense wants to be, but I'll get into it. It all comes back to the run game. But the point I'm trying to drive home here is 2025, not as successful as 2024. And the reason is, I've mentioned it twice, is this run game and the lack thereof. Check this out. This is early on in this ball game. You got this is 3rd and 5, I believe it was. Regardless, the point still stands. No, this was 1st and 10. PN10, you can see by the marker. My mistake. PN10. Check this out, though. LSU has 3 receivers out there. 5 offensive linemen, 1 running back. They're in 11, really 10 personnel, 4 receivers. Point I'm trying to drive home, though, is Ole Miss has 4 defenders and a 5th defender in the box. This guy here is extending out to be in pass coverage. Against these looks, if you're LSU, you have to have some threat of being able to run the rock. Right here, and I should have freezed it at this frame earlier. You have 4 Ole Miss defenders and a 5th here. This 6th defender, he's washed out. He's going, or walked out. He's going with the receivers. Not once in this ball game is LSU able to take advantage of a favorable look. Their offensive line, and I know they got new starters, but take advantage and run the ball. Literally not once. They don't even try. And I saw Dan Orlovsky said that they only ran on 1st down 3 times. That is absurd. That's like literally air raid status. Luckily, you have a quarterback like Garrett Nussmeier. He's able to get the ball out of his hands and make something happen. Here we go again. This 1st and 10. How many dudes are in the box? We got 4 here, a 5th guy here. This 6th guy, he doesn't count. He doesn't count. He's walked out defending the receivers. This is late in this ball game. You got to establish the run. You have to be able to run the ball here. Have to be able to run the ball here. If they didn't have Garrett Nussmeier and this was their run look, they would be a bad football team. Garrett Nussmeier gets them out of trouble because the whole time, and it's not just the 5 guys in the box, it's also consistently on almost every single play in this game, Ole Miss has 2 high safeties. If you have 2 high safeties, that means that one of those guys is not in the box coming down to forcing themselves to defend against the run. If you have a safety come down and there's only 1 safety deep, that's where you can take your home run shots. When you play LSU, all these teams, now that Ole Miss had success with it, they're always going to have 2 high safeties. And look at the snap of the ball of this linebacker. He knows they do not want to run the ball. You watch this play and tell me if you think this guy has any sort of fear that LSU is going to run the football. No, he's dropping back right away. Even check the back view right here. That guy. I'll go back to it. Look at his first step. Ball snap. This is not a 3rd down territory. First snap, he's going back. There is no fear in Ole Miss of the run game whatsoever. Happened last year for Garrett Nussmeier. Happened again this year. Here's another one, and I'll rip through this more quickly. LSU here is in 12 personnel, meaning they have 2 tight ends on the field. If you have 2 SEC tight ends on the field, 2 of which are right here, That must mean that LSU needs to change their defense, or Ole Miss needs to change their defensive structure. In this picture, LSU has two tight ends on the field. Look at how many safeties they have back here. They have 3 safeties back there. You think two tight ends? You think run the football. Ole Miss is like, nah, we get it, dude. You ain't going to run the rock. We'll have 3 safeties a mile deep. And I actually don't even know if this is a linebacker or a safety body as well. Kind of looks like a linebacker body. But they might even be in nickel personnel to start. And technically, I guess, for those of you guys watching this guy's probably a corner. But he's operating as if they have three high, deep secondary players playing. If you get this look, and I guarantee the O-line's getting chewed out this week. If you get this look, you should be able to run the rock all day long down the left-hand side because Ole Miss has no contain. Look at that. You don't even have to know X's and O's football to know that a toss sweep should pick up big yardage. So they kind of try to do here. Doesn't happen at all. You're letting Ole Miss get away with a defensive structure that they shouldn't be able to get away with. That right there is the same exact thing. Again, 12 personnel look. Ole Miss is going to stay with a nickel on the field. Nickels usually come off the field when a second tight end comes on because you get a bigger body. But again, just to drive the point home. 2 high safeties from Ole Miss, not scared whatsoever about the run, yet LSU has 2 tight ends. And credit the Ole Miss defensive front for holding up, but this is very concerning long-term in terms of the rest of the season, because this is not something you just fix. This is part of your identity. This is what you're working all off season to establish as a run game there, and that ain't happening. That ain't happening. See Kiff right there. He's fired up. But when I watch that film, no part of me is like Garrett Nussmeier is the issue. No part of me. It's all the run game and the lack of support there. And I guess run game play calling, because at a certain point you got to force the issue. But it really reminds me, this LSU offense reminds me of 2023 USC with Caleb Williams. And the reason why is if you're a play caller, you know you have an NFL first-round quarterback. For LSU, it's Garrett Nussmeier. And so you want to give him the keys to the car. And there's that sense that, dude, I want to throw the rock every single time because I got an NFL quarterback. But then it allows the defense to play soft. And if you get in a match where, or if you get in a scenario where, hey, teams are dropping 8 defensive backs, I don't care how good your quarterback is. That's a tough defensive structure to go up against, especially when they start getting stops and your run game is non-existent. Nussmeier is a baller. This run game is trash, and it's very concerning for LSU. How we doing, chat? I lost some of you guys on TikTok for the audio issues. YouTube, how we living? I'm Blake, so I'm saying lack of run game is the reason for Nuss's decline. But watching that tape, I don't think NFL scouts watch that tape and are like, oh, Nuss is the problem. No. LSU asks Nuss to do much more in the passing game than like Drew Aller, who, we just broke down his tape. Drew Aller gets supported by a lot of that run game, a lot of that toss sweep, a lot of those little tight end dump off passes. Nuss, it's like closer to air raid. Well, did you see Ryan Williams drop against Georgia? I did. And that's a phenomenal segue to my next to the next segment. His quarterback, Ty Simpson. Kalen DeBoer has his quarterback. Alabama has their quarterback. Shit, the Davey O'Brien Trophy might have its quarterback at some point. Maybe not this year, but in years to come. And his name is Ty Simpson. This past game, Alabama 27, Georgia 24. That was the biggest game of Ty Simpson's life. You have the Florida State game, which a lot of people getting on his case, obviously getting on the Alabama team in general. But a year after, people loved what Jalen Milroe were doing. We're so excited about what Kalen DeBoer could bring. Ty Simpson goes in there, didn't have a good game. I watched that film and was like, hey, this guy might have some talent. And I said that. That's not me just saying hindsight's 2020. Those of you guys on the live, I was like, you can tell by the way they were calling plays. They weren't trying to protect a quarterback in his first start or give him easy dink and dunk type passes. They were pressing the ball down the field. That didn't show up in points and wins week one. It's showing up now. Ty Simpson went 24 for 38, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. Super efficient right there. Did have 4 carries, 10 yards, and a touchdown. His legs aren't Jalen Milroe, obviously. They're not Bryce Young. But I think he's operating the pass game like Mac Jones, yet he has better legs than Mac Jones. He's not as big, so in terms of – and I'll have to go back and look how his arm strength compares. But, dude, Ty Simpson – any sort of game manager talk with Ty Simpson, throw that out the window. This dude's making some big time throws, which I'll get into. I got about 6 clips of his that I'll dive into. Key stat though to keep in mind: he is 76 for 100 on the season when he's kept clean, and all 11 of his touchdowns have come when he's kept clean. Clean pocket, able to get the ball out of his hands. Even when they blitz him, if they pick it up, Ty Simpson's going to make you pay. Even for a younger guy, actually, I won't say younger because he's been on campus, but for a guy making his first starts, one, you can tell that he's getting better every single week, but this dude is processing. And let me show you this. All these throws are from the first quarter. And those of you guys that have followed my content for a while know that I usually try to have some sort of theme or some big key core takeaway. For Drew Aller, it was that one drive that I thought was a turning point. For Garrett Nussmeier, it's all about the run game that's not helping him out, that's putting a lot of pressure on him. For Ty Simpson, let's just go through his first quarter passing attempts. Or I should say first quarter completions. Let me set the stage. It's the first play of the game. You're on the road, between the hedges. Everyone knows the pressure's on you because you already lost to Florida State. Eyeballs on you. The average fan thinks Ty Simpson played poorly week one. Pressure's on you. First call of the game. What are you going with? Not only do they change the protection, this is the throw that Ty Simpson dials up. In between 3 Georgia defenders, 30 yards down the field on a rope. This ball should have been caught. It would have been a hell of a catch. This ball should have been caught. I'll back that up once more. But he's got his receiver here working across the field. The safety, the linebackers are going to drop. Right now, if I told you that he's fitting this ball in here, that's a tight window. That's a tight window. He does it, and we'll get to the back view. This ball should have been caught. This is a hell of a throw to start the game. There's no, we'll get him an easy completion. We'll get him a little, nice, easy attempt. How's that? How's that for the first attempt in the game? You might say that's high. I guarantee the Alabama receiver room says, we got to come down with that football. You got a linebacker dropping, corner right there, safety who's going to knock his head off if that's late at all. Or that's a pick if it's late at all. To have the confidence to hang in the pocket early on in the game and rip that, I was impressed. Check it out again. Where's my guy in the chat? Where's my guy in the chat? Isaac with the drop. Here it is, right here. You're down up your best receiver, Ryan Williams. Put it in the breadbasket. Money. That was his second throw in the game. Here's I believe this is the third one. I took out one in between, but right here, he's going to take a shot. He's got a blitzing linebacker. This guy's going to blitz right here. He knows that his receiver on the bottom of the screen has a little curl route. He knows he's hot. This guy's coming. Got to get the ball to your hands. Watch him take this hit. Move on. Deliver an accurate throw. Makes this look easy. It's not. Oh, that's the wrong play. My bad. That's it. We'll get another look at the Ryan Williams deep post. Here. Backer blitzing. He knows he's hot. It's not poor protection, just one more guy than they can handle. Receiver on the bottom's got a little snap route, comeback route, one-on-one. This is big league throw. Hangs in the pocket, delivers it, takes a shot, accurate throw right at the face mask, move on. Now, when you show that you can complete these throws and hang in the pocket, it gives your offensive coordinator a lot of confidence to continue to call these plays, continue to press the ball down the field. And when you're continuing to press the ball down the field, it gives you easy completions into the flat. It softens up the defense. It helps your run game, helps everyone involved. All right, that's still in the first quarter. 3 good throws there. What's this one? Oh, this is big league. This is big league right here. So, Georgia Bulldogs, they're running cover 2 out of this. Having a safety at 7 yards deep, running cover 2, that's how you know you have an NFL caliber safety. Most college defenses can't get away with this. But it's on Ty Simpson to recognize that. That safety's depth. He also has to be wary of this corner. This corner's tight. This safety's low. Maybe this corner's going to blitz on a corner cat. That's a big giveaway. When a safety's low like this, the corner might come here. Lot to process if you're Ty Simpson. Again, early on in the ball game, he just got his bell rung. He had his star receiver drop an easy touchdown pass. He had a bang missed route on that first play of the game. How does he settle in? How does he process? Well, I'll tell you how he processes. He recognizes that safety, and this is always a quarterback alert. This receiver going vertical, the alert is a hole shot, meaning that in between the hole with the safety getting to his deep half and the corner hanging in the flat, there's a hole right here where if you can drive the football, you can get yourself a completion. It's not necessarily built into the progression, so to speak. It's more of an alert, at least how I was taught. I think I was about to say I was taught by his offensive coordinators, but no, that was 5 years too late. But look at him rip this thing. Bang. It's big time quarterback play. He's making stuff that takes a lot of processing look easy. Here's the touchdown throw. Again, you keep Ty Simpson clean. He'll get the bottom of his hands accurate. They're all at the face mask. Super catchable. This one, what do we got here? This is a nice little basic route. Climbs in the pocket. I really like, that comes natural to him. Watch him climb and help his offensive tackles out. And it looks clean. It looks easy. It's not something he's thinking about. Boom. And then this last one, again, these are all first quarter throws. You could have clipped this as like a game highlight. You could have clipped this as a game highlight for Drew Aller, and I'm like, dude, good game, man. Like, hell yeah. Like, that's good. That's good QB play. Right here, big play action fake. He's hitting this receiver on a dig route coming through. Only problem is, look at how many Georgia defenders are right around him. He's got a corner sinking. He's got a linebacker with eyes on. If he hangs on too late and gets into the third window, he's got another linebacker and then 2 safeties watching his every move. But he's going to fit this dig route right in here. This is a big league throw. The back view will show it even more. Again, for every one of those throws that you can complete, and I might do like a full-length YouTube video on it because it's really hitting me this year more than any year before. A lot of college teams don't have an intermediate passing game. It's all RPO, quick game stuff, take your shots. Alabama has an intermediate passing game. And for every intermediate dig, curl, corner, over route, for every intermediate route that you can complete, it makes the linebackers have to open up and like scan the entire field rather than just either worrying about their assignment right in front of them. And when you do that, for every intermediate completion you get, you basically buy yourself 2 easy completions down into the flat later on in that same game. But look at this throw. Big play action. We got this. This receiver's coming into this window. Got to throw it right behind this linebacker's head. But look at my man over here. His eyes. He's twisting his hips. He's looking at Ty Simpson. If Ty's late at all, this dude's coming for a kill shot. Got to hit it right on the hash. Bang. good. That's good quarterback play. I really like Ty Simpson's game, and it's interesting because, in recent memory, we've had Jalen Milroe, who is super exciting, and it's made for SportsCenter highlights. We've had Bryce Young, who won the Heisman and was remarkable in that way. Ty Simpson falls more into like the Mac Jones lens, and I think at least through 3 starts, he's shown me more than even Mac did back in the day, which is saying a lot. Mac was great, but I think his mobility, the quickness, he's got more speed. He's not as big, but in terms of, again, Ty Simpson, it feels like he's getting better every single week. And there's no reason we can't be sitting here saying he's one of the top quarterbacks in college football at the end of the year. One thing for sure, though, we know at this stage in the season, he is not a game manager. Not at all. Not at all, which I feel like is how people were positioning him early on in the season. All right, last but not least, I'm pumped for this one. This will be good. Chat, how we doing? We still hanging in there? Good numbers on YouTube. Appreciate all you guys on YouTube. TikTok, we're about to rank the remaining undefeated teams. Put them in tiers. TikTok, go on YouTube and check it out. And without further ado, I will share my screen. Let's do this thing. All right. Oh. Sorry. Tech. Come through for me, Tech. Yes, there we go. Why is it not doing that? My bad, guys. One second. There we go. Come on. The logos on the bottom are the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. 16 undefeated teams left in college football. TikTok, we got Georgia Tech, Louisville, the U, Iowa State, Houston, Texas Tech, BYU, Indiana, Oregon, Maryland, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Vandy, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. I got 5 tiers for us. I got will finish undefeated, college football contender, be careful, this is the peak, and will finish below 500. The one rule that my producer was helping me with, he said the rule is I have to have at least 2 teams in each tier. To say it differently, I have to have 2 of these teams that are undefeated right now on September 28th. I got to say will finish below 500. Chat, feel free to chime in. Let me know what you think of who should go where. I will start in order with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. For me, college football contender. This past week, they showed they're not going undefeated, but I didn't think they were going to go undefeated anyways. They're legit. I think their DNA in terms of being more physical than most teams is or having a physical identity in a world where a lot of people don't pride themselves on that is an advantage, especially when you're facing up against the middle tier of the ACC, which I don't know if a lot of those teams will have the horses to stand up with Georgia Tech. But I like the Yellow Jackets as a contender. I don't think they go undefeated. My biggest concern with Georgia Tech is when they face a team, and this is coming off a week where they faced Wake Forest, who should not fall into this bucket. But when they face a team who can go toe-to-toe with them physicality-wise. I made this point with Clemson, but Clemson feels like I don't even know what's going on with Clemson this year. But when Georgia Tech has to throw the rock and they face teams with equal or better talent than them, when they have to throw the rock, I think Haynes King is capable of that. This offense is not built to do that. That would be my biggest concern for Georgia Tech. It feels like a team that's going to take advantage of teams that have lesser talent than them, that's what great teams do. But do they have the firepower to beat teams better than them? The Louisville Cardinals, I had them in person 2 weeks ago. I got them in be careful. Feels like they had to come from behind win yesterday versus Pitt. Offense not gelling as much as I would like. At least when I had them in person, I thought their defense and their defensive front was like, yo, if Louisville's gonna, make the CFP, it's gonna be because of their defensive front and that edge rusher they have, number 50, is a baller. But then Pitt scored a bunch of points on them, and Pitt's offensive line I don't think is got any world beaters. Side note: I'm calling the Pitt Boston College game this week, so check that out. But I'm putting Louisville up. Be careful. I think it's a big couple of weeks for the Cards. Can the defense and the offense really settle in? They've got a lot of new transfers. Miller Moss there. People were talking about Miller before the season, not as much now. They have a great backfield. It just feels like it hasn't all come together, but it could. It could. But I got the Cards, the be careful lens. Miami. Oh, I'm breaking my rule. Whatever. Miami. I got Miami at a CFP contender. I don't think they'll finish undefeated. I think the middle tier of the ACC is as strong as it's been in recent memory. I really do. I really do. Teams like Virginia. I know Syracuse just got their quarterback banged up, but I think Virginia's better this year. I think Boston College is better this year. I think Cal's better this year. Pitt. I think Pitt's better this year now that they're fully healthy. I don't know. It just feels like Miami is the classic one-loss team. But I love everything I've seen from them. The edge rushers, the offensive tackles. Carson Beck's proved me wrong. I'm turning the corner on him. Miami is legit. Miami will be in the CFP. I don't think they finish conference play undefeated. Nothing against the Canes. I think the ACC is as strong as it's been. Iowa State, CFP contender right here. They're the team I trust the most in the Big 12. Rocco Beck, he's probably the quarterback I trust the most in the Big 12. It just feels like there's ups and downs, peaks and valleys with a lot of these teams, and Iowa State's the one team that it's like, all right, I believe in this squad. And especially if the SEC and the Big 10 start beating each other up, and maybe there's a room for a second Big 12 team in there that could give a team like Iowa State some runway. If, hey, does a 10-2 Iowa State get in? Or a one-loss Iowa State with a loss in the conference championship get in? That probably does it for Iowa State. I like the Cyclones. Houston is my first. We'll finish below 500 team. Connor Wegman and his squad. I'm saying below 500. I just feel like I like a lot of the other teams that are coming down the pipeline for them. They still have Texas Tech, who's on this list. They still have ASU, they still have TCU, and they still have Baylor. I believe they also have UCF, and they also have Arizona, which Arizona, with that defense, the way that they're playing, I know it didn't show up last week, but the first few weeks, that defense, and they got Noah Fafita, a very capable quarterback. If Arizona wakes up on the right side of the bed and catches Houston sleepwalking, fact check me, I believe they got Arizona. This feels like a team, and I'm very much I made the rules. I have to have two of these teams finish below 500. If it's going to be any of these two, I think it's going to be Houston. The Texas Tech Red Raiders, I'm putting them at be careful. Still, the Utah win was incredibly impressive. I want to see more, though. I want to see more. There's a lot of teams in the Big 12 in that top tier. And I still don't know enough of how that's going to shake out with all the teams I just mentioned. Texas Tech, ASU, TCU, Baylor, BYU's on this list. I'm missing one more. I mean, Houston as well. Iowa State as well. Still want to see one more notch with all the newness for Texas Tech. I'm still a little bit in wait and see mode. I don't put Tech in the same tier as the three teams above them. So I'm putting Tech in the be careful tier. BYU, I'm saying this is the peak. I thought that was who on game day had the cover for Colorado versus BYU. I thought that was an easy cover for Colorado and a poor matchup for Colorado as well. The size and strength of BYU versus that's the vulnerability of Colorado. I just think with BYU, they beat up on some lesser opponents. They still have a true freshman quarterback. Is he really going to go into some of these atmospheres and win you those games? I think he's going to have to for BYU to really be in the conversation. I'm not there yet on the Cougars. Not there yet. Yeah, I mean, it's really just maybe if their quarterback changed his number, it'd be different vibe here. But I'm saying this is the peak to start the season 4-0. Got away with one maybe last night late versus Colorado. I'm saying this is the peak for BYU. Not that they're a bad team, not that they're going to go below 500, but in terms of where they're at in my brain, it's a step behind the Louisville Cards and the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Moving on to the Big Ten, we got Indiana. I got Indiana as a CFP contender. I have them as a contender. I'm maybe not as high on them as others, and I hate this because I love Fernando Mendoza as a player. He is he's the best player interview that I've had. For those of you guys on TikTok, I got sharing my screen and got the board over there on Canva of the different tiers. I do not think Fernando Mendoza is the number one pick in next year's NFL draft. I saw Pat McAfee say that on game day. I am not in that camp. I'm not in the camp of him being a first rounder either yet. I think he can get there. Those of you guys that have followed my content closely, the Oregon game is going to be big for Fernando Mendoza because against Illinois, a lot of his passing stats, the vast majority of his passing stats were off of RPOs. You can't do that in the National Football League. Against Oregon, they're not going to be able to run RPOs to the success rate they did versus Indiana. If you are a number one overall quarterback, even if you're going on the road to Eugene, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. I'm not expecting him to throw for 400 yards, but you got to show me something in that game. That to me is a huge test. Curious to see how they land there. But right now, Indiana, given all the pieces they have around them, believer in Kurt Cignetti, they're a CFP contender. The Oregon Ducks, man, they're my number one team in the country right now. I'm saying they're finishing the year undefeated. Reason being, they can beat you in different ways. I've been a believer in Dante Moore. We can bring out the footage. I had before the season, I said my dark horse Heisman pick was Dante Moore. Johan and some of the locals on the chat will probably be able to validate that. I said my betting, like if I had to put my money somewhere, I would say Garrett Nussmeier. But dark horse wise, it was Dante Moore. That defense is impressive. Those transfers they had on the defensive line showed up. Receiver wise, I feel like they're fine. Good to see Gary Bryant back healthy, even with what's his face getting hurt preseason. That tight end is a weapon, and I just feel like they can beat you in different ways. And they've proven to me this year that if they have to win a game on the right arm of Dante Moore, they certainly can do that. Maryland is my second team that'll finish below 500 of the teams that are undefeated to start the year. Maryland Terps, I'm sorry, but you have a schedule coming down the pipeline. I thought I put it down, but let me put it up right here. Maryland has Washington, who's going to be pissed off after the Ohio State game, looking to stay in contention for their own sake. They got Washington next week. They got Nebraska the week after. If Matt Rule is going to take that year 3 leap, you cannot lose to Maryland. Then you got UCLA. All right, that's maybe a win there. But then you go Indiana, you go Rutgers. I love Rutgers as quarterback, which is a sneaky keeper eye. That dude's good. That dude is real good. Rutgers QB. Then you go Illinois, who just beat USC at Illinois. That could be high stakes game for Illinois if they're on the fringe of a playoff. Then you go Michigan, and then you finish with Michigan State. I don't like that schedule for Maryland. That makes me nervous. True freshman quarterback as well. Done some good things. But if any of these teams had to go below 500, I'm saying it's the Houston Cougars and the Maryland Terps. Ohio State, I still think they're a notch behind Oregon right now. I'm putting them as a CFP contender. Very intrigued to see how Julian Sayin develops throughout the year. He's impressed me with how he's met the moment. I mean, you're starting for all the pressure's on you, starting for the defending national champs, playing within the system, doing what's asked of him. I got no problems with it. I don't think they can win a national title with this offensive identity. I think they have to become a little bit more explosive. I think Julian Sayin can get there, but he's not there yet. Hasn't flashed the way it has for Dante Moore. That's why I got Ohio State as a CFP contender team. Now it's the mess of the SEC. This is an absolute shit show for the 5-tier list here. But man, it's going to be fun to watch. All right, Ole Miss. I'm saying Ole Miss. Be careful. I don't think Ole Miss has the horses up front they had last year. Intrigued to see how that plays out in November, offensive and defensive line wise. Last year they had Walter Nolan and Prince, the last name you can't pronounce. I feel like they have talent. I feel like they had a little bit more. I feel like they took advantage of, like we talked about 20 minutes ago, LSU's poor run game, and that was like a successful matchup for them. Quarterback wise, they've found an answer there. I just with with everything else around the SEC, I'm just in be careful mode with Ole Miss. Feels like we've seen that story. We've kind of seen this story before a little bit. They got Georgia in 2 weeks. That's scary. They got Oklahoma in 3. Noteworthy thing there is John Mateer back in 3 weeks. That'll probably be like the cutoff game, right? So that very much could tip the scales of this. Ole Miss, if you have to face John Mateer in 3 weeks versus not, that's a big deal. For Vandy, I'm a believer in Vandy, but then I'm going to be contradicting myself here. I think this is the peak, which is no slight against Vandy. Being undefeated heading into October is phenomenal. But I do think this is the peak because coming down the pipeline, the Commodores have Alabama, LSU, which could be playing with a certain chip on their shoulder, Missouri, Texas, Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee. That is their schedule for the rest of the year. The games you kind of like on paper are Auburn and Kentucky. I really like Auburn's defensive line, and having a strong defensive line against Vandy's running attack is a favorable matchup for Auburn there. That's just tough. I think this is the peak for Vandy. I love Diego Pavia. I think he's underrated. Those of you guys that have followed my content 2 weeks ago, I did a bunch of stuff on that, but I just think this is the peak for Vandy. They're going to be competitive. They might sneak up on 2 of these teams, but I don't think they're sneaking up. I don't think they're beating all 7 of them to ultimately become a CFP contender. Missouri. I'm putting Missouri at be careful. Can't have Missouri above Ole Miss in my brain right now. I haven't seen, admittedly, as much of Missouri, but they got, and they do have of all the SEC schools, they have the easiest on paper strength of schedule of all these teams. And maybe I'm falling into the trap of years past narratives and, all the research you do in the offseason about who are the NFL guys, who are the dogs, who are the studs, and Missouri's not necessarily in that conversation, but I'm still just right there. I'm still wait and see mode a little bit. I got Missouri at the be careful tier. Oklahoma, CFP contender for me. One of the most interesting factors for me is how will it play out? How will John Mateer's injury play out with the college football playoff? 2 years ago, the conversation with the CFP was about injuries and the significance of Jordan Travis, and they ultimately did not let Florida State get into the college football playoff. Different format now with 12 teams. Obviously, Florida State would have got in with that format. But how will they weight John Mateer's injury should Oklahoma slide a few games, or if it takes a couple games for Mateer to get back and he's playing out of this world at the end of last year? That was an argument a lot of people hung on to last year with South Carolina. It was like, Lenora Sellers is a totally different quarterback November by Thanksgiving than he was Labor Day. That should count for something. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's going to net out differently with everyone. How does that factor weigh for Oklahoma and in the playoff? But Mateer to me is the best quarterback in college football.